Mia Henderson. Age 7, vanished from the face of the earth in just 7 minutes and 8 years later. Her tiny jacket was discovered inside a locked train car at an abandoned railway station on the morning of Thursday. September 15th, an unseasonably chilly breeze swept through South Side. Chicago. Mia's mother, Danielle Henderson, had promised her a weekend picnic if she behaved and went to school all week. But the short, 4-block walk from her grandmother's house to her mother's home turned into a final journey no one could have imagined, with a little black cat backpack and a brand new denim jacket. Mia waved goodbye to her grandmother and darted out the gate. That was the last time Mia's grandmother ever saw her. Just 7 minutes of walking, 4 familiar street corners, yet 8 years later. Only silence remains. No one saw Mia at the traffic light. No one recalled spotting her on the sidewalk. Every account was vague, as if the little girl had simply dissolved into thin air. Then, 8 years later, on a drizzly morning, a maintenance crew dismantling a rusted freight car at the abandoned Riverside Rail Cuff station pried open the jammed restroom door inside car number 307. There, they found a tiny children's jacket embroidered with the name Mia, still bearing the faded traces of dried blood. The jacket became the single ray of light, piercing through 8 years of darkness. But it also unveiled an even deeper mystery: who had been inside that train car and what really happened to Mia Henderson. Danielle Henderson remembers that final morning as if it were yesterday, while she was packing Mia's lunch in their tiny kitchen. The phone rang from the living room. It was her mother, Mia's grandmother, calling to say that Mia had just left her house and would be at Danielle's place in a few minutes. Danielle smiled, already thinking about the picnic shed promised at starved Rock State Park. After giving birth to Mia at 22, Danielle had set aside her dream of studying graphic design and postponed finishing college so she could work. Those early days as a single mother in South Side were a struggle. During the day, she worked as a receptionist at a small company. And at night, she waited tables at a 24-hour diner, many nights. She'd watch Mia sleep, silently vowing to give her daughter a safer, better life. Mia was her entire world. In their tight-knit neighborhood, Danielle was known as a gentle, soft-spoken mom who always helped neighbors babysit or shared meals with those in need, according to Marlene, Mia's grandmother. Danielle never once raised her voice at Mia. Every morning, Danielle would walk Mia to preschool, wait until she stepped inside, then head to her shift. But that day, Danielle was stuck working an early morning shift, so Mia walked with her grandmother to Grandma's house, then was supposed to walk the short remaining distance to her mother's home. That wasn't unusual. Everyone in the neighborhood was used to seeing little Mia skipping along with her backpack, waving to shopkeepers, and stopping to pet the neighbor's dog. 8 years later, Danielle still hasn't moved out of that old apartment. She hasn't changed her phone number or taken down the nameplate on her door. Mia's room remains untouched, just as it was the day she vanished. Walls covered with drawings of the treehouse Mia dreamed of. Stuffed animals neatly lined up beside her pillow. Her purple Converse shoes sit by the door, exactly where Mia left them. Danielle believes that if Mia ever comes home, she'll know her mother is waiting right where everything began. Mia Henderson was a little girl with big, bright eyes, neatly braided hair, a constant smile, a love for drawing, and a passion for listening to her mother's stories about magical forests in Mia's sketches. A treehouse stood tall amid lush green leaves, with squirrels darting around and birds singing above. Kids in the neighborhood sometimes teased Mia for being a dreamer, but she'd just smile and insist that when she grew up, she'd build that treehouse herself so she and her mom could live there. Mia excelled in school, especially in art and singing, often winning little trophies at elementary school talent shows. On the day she disappeared, Mia wore a brand new denim jacket her mother had bought her, a white t-shirt with a star print, black leggings, and those purple Converse shoes Danielle still keeps. She carried a black cat-shaped backpack stuffed with colored pencils and a sketchbook filled with ideas for her dream treehouse. Mia was always polite, greeting the security guard every morning and saying hello to shopkeepers. Her teacher often asked Mia to help kids who lacked confidence because she was so good at encouraging them. The other children called her their little teacher. Her grandmother remembered how every afternoon, Mia would sit with her on the porch, chattering away about tree houses as she drew. Every night, when Danielle came home from work, Mia would sprint from the gate, leaping into her mother's arms and asking, "Can we go on our picnic this weekend, Mommy?" On the night before she disappeared, Danielle had answered, "If you're good, this weekend I'll take you to Starved Rock, and we'll find the perfect treehouse." That promise was never fulfilled. The dreams of green forests and magical treehouses remain unfinished. The South Side neighborhood of Chicago, where Danielle and Mia lived, was a community of mostly black families, rich in traditions of mutual support, but burdened by challenges: petty crime, persistent unemployment, and economic inequality. Even so, most residents took pride in their close-knit bonds, sharing food, helping watch each other's children, and organizing street festivals. The day Mia disappeared, the entire neighborhood was shaken. Missing child flyers were posted on every lamppost, shop window, church door, and gas station. Volunteers formed search parties combing parks, vacant lots, and abandoned houses. Early searches attracted media coverage, but within weeks, as leads dried up, news vans moved on to outsiders. It seemed Southside had forgotten Mia, but inside the neighborhood, the pain quietly lingered. The owner of the corner store Mia frequented kept her photo taped by the register, replacing the flowers beside it every month. The elderly neighbor next door continued placing a small cupcake by Mia's door on every birthday. Yet exhaustion wore down hope. Weeks of fruitless searches led some to blame each other, and others grew fearful of letting their children outside. The once lively streets became subdued, children played outside less, and neighbors grew more wary. Still, a thread of unity remained. On the first anniversary of Mia's disappearance, dozens of families gathered in front of Danielle's apartment, lighting candles and calling Mia's name into the night, praying for a miracle. But as time passed, daily struggles demanded attention, and the pain sank quietly beneath the surface. Only Danielle never stopped searching for her. This neighborhood holds both the most beautiful memories and the unending nightmare she cannot escape. On September 15th, 8 years ago, the afternoon began like any other in Southside. The autumn breeze was crisp, leaves were just starting to change color, and school buses rolled through the streets, dropping children off along the way. At 3:50 p.m., Mia left Grandma Marlene's house with her little backpack. She'd been told to walk 4 blocks back to her mother's home, a route so familiar she could probably name every crack in the sidewalk. Neighbors confirmed seeing Mia pass their houses. One woman even said she waved to Mia as the girl crossed the intersection at Maple. But after that point, no one was certain they'd seen her again. By 4:15 p.m., Danielle began to worry when Mia hadn't arrived. At 4:30, she called her mother, who confirmed Mia had left nearly 40 minutes earlier. Danielle rushed out into the street, heart pounding, telling herself Mia was probably just distracted and playing somewhere, but every alley and every familiar corner stood empty. After 20 minutes of frantic searching, Danielle called the police, and the official search began. At first, investigators suspected Mia might have wandered off, drawn by her adventurous spirit and fascination with imaginary treehouses. Maybe she'd been tempted by a quiet alley or an empty lot. But the truth was, Mia wasn't a disobedient child. She always followed her mother's instructions. Neighbors' testimonies only deepened the confusion. Everyone seemed to have seen Mia, but their timelines didn't match up, and some details contradicted each other. Police quickly sealed off the area and reviewed surveillance cameras, only to discover that most of the cameras at the 3rd and Maple intersection had been removed a few days earlier for maintenance. The lack of footage turned the disappearance into a foggy mystery, as if Mia had vanished into thin air. News of Mia's disappearance spread rapidly through the neighborhood. That night, flashlights swept through every bush and backyard, and voices calling Mia echoed through the alleys. But as night deepened, hope slowly faded. There were no clues, no clear witnesses, and no trace to follow. On the 2nd day after Mia vanished, search teams of police, volunteers, and tracking dogs expanded the search to a 5-mile radius around Danielle's home. Flyers with Mia's photo were handed to every passerby, plastered on lampposts, windows, and bus stops. Searchers scoured parks, playgrounds, vacant lots, and abandoned warehouses. One of the first potential leads came from a 9-year-old girl selling lemonade on the corner, who said she saw a girl who looked like Mia climbing into a small silver van with license plates starting with 74, but she couldn't recall any more details. In desperation, police treated the tip as a main lead, checking every silver van with plates starting with 74 in the area. After 3 days of cross-checking, no result emerged. Some vehicles were ruled out because their owners were working out of state at the time of the disappearance. Meanwhile, the young girl's story began to change at first. She said the van was parked right at Maple's corner. Later, she claimed it was parked near the post office 2 blocks away. Doubts about her memory grew. Another neighbor claimed to have seen a suspicious man in a gray jacket leaning against a utility pole near the Maple 3rd intersection around the time Mia went missing. But no one else could confirm his presence, and the description lacked details. Conflicting leads piled up, wearing down the search teams. Danielle barely slept during the first week, wandering the streets, stopping at every store to ask questions. She visited gas stations and convenience stores, begging to see their security footage, but none had captured Mia at the critical time. Each day that passed saw media interest fade, leaving behind exhausted faces glued to their phones, waiting for any word. By the 3rd week, police expanded the search radius to 10 miles, questioning truck drivers, delivery workers, and homeless individuals living near major roads, while combing the area around Riverside Park. A volunteer found a small pink hairbow resembling one Mia used to wear. It was immediately sent for DNA testing, but the results showed no match. The disappointment hit Danielle hard, crushing what little hope she still held. Meanwhile, investigators turned their attention to the abandoned Riverside rail caching station, just 2 miles from Danielle's home, once a major freight hub. It had been closed nearly a decade earlier when the rail line was shut down, initially. Police dismissed the area, assuming it was locked up and deserted, but a check of records revealed that the station key was still issued to a maintenance worker named Curtis Lee, a man who had quit several months before Mia disappeared. That discovery raised unsettling questions. Why would someone who no longer worked there still have keys to a sprawling area filled with dark, rusting train cars? Despite searching the station at the time, police found nothing of interest, but the unanswered questions left a gaping hole in the investigation. After 6 months without progress, the search operation officially scaled back, and Mia's case slowly slipped from public attention. For Danielle, though, every evening spent in Mia's room felt like a vigil. She clung to the belief that her daughter was alive and that all it would take was a single, true lead to break the silence. That's why. 8 years later, when Mia's denim jacket, embroidered with her name, was found in a locked train car, every hope and fear came rushing back, dragging Danielle into the nightmare she had never truly escaped. On a rainy Monday morning in October, a demolition crew arrived early at the abandoned Riverside Railcar station. Their job was to force open the long, locked freight cars, clearing them out in preparation for dismantling the entire site. Inside freight car number 307, when a worker kicked open a jammed restroom door, they were met with a chilling sight, a small denim jacket hanging from a hook, thick with dust, but otherwise intact, just slightly frayed at the cuffs. The jacket was tiny, perfect for a child around 6 to 8 years old, with the name Mia delicately embroidered on the left chest. Nearby, the restroom floor bore several dark, reddish-brown stains, long dried, resembling old blood. The workers immediately called the police. The scene was secured, and forensic technicians arrived to collect evidence. News of the discovery spread quickly to South Side. Danielle nearly collapsed when officers came to her door carrying a photo of the jacket. She recognized it instantly as the one Mia had worn the day she disappeared, a blue denim jacket with white lace trim. A special birthday gift Danielle had saved up for Mia's 7th birthday. Technicians collected DNA samples from the stains on the jacket, but found no other biological traces inside the car. What puzzled investigators most was how the jacket ended up inside a locked train car. The key to the car had only ever been held by maintenance staff or the company that once owned the station, but Riverside Railcar had gone bankrupt nearly 8 years earlier, the same time Mia vanished. Surviving records listed Curtis Lee as the last person issued a key. That revelation shifted everyone's focus squarely onto him, but Curtis had left Chicago and disappeared shortly after Mia went missing, leaving behind a frightening void in the case. As forensics expanded their search into the station's old waiting room, they made a startling discovery: a child's sketchbook wedged between the slats of a wooden bench. On the first page, careful handwriting spelled out, "Mia's book." Inside were crude pencil drawings, again and again depicting a treehouse in the middle of a forest, identical to the pictures Danielle still kept at home. One page even showed a small silver van, eerily similar to the vehicle described in tips from 8 years earlier. The sketchbook was tattered and water-stained, but still legible. DNA analysis revealed fingerprints matching the DNA samples stored from Mia's missing person file, confirming Mia had handled the book, at least after she left her original route home. A closer inspection revealed the station's rear door had been forcibly opened, leading to a dark hallway that connected to the row of old freight cars. This passage didn't appear on official blueprints, but was wide enough for an adult to lead a child through without being seen. The scene painted a disturbing picture of a deliberate plan, someone who knew the station's hidden corners, who could move unnoticed, and who had the means to hide a child without raising alarm. But what happened next? Why did these clues surface only after 8 years, coinciding with the demolition of the station? The questions hanging in the air left everyone who'd followed the case feeling heartsick and unsettled. One detail made the mystery even more tangled. 6 years ago, 2 years after Mia disappeared, Danielle received an anonymous postcard. On it was a simple watercolor of snowy railroad tracks with a solitary treehouse standing beyond the pines. The postcard had been mailed from Indiana, nearly 200 kilometers from Chicago. The drawing's style and color palette were hauntingly similar to Mia's art, but what sent chills through Danielle was the signature on the back, just a single letter. The postcard, arriving 2 years after Mia's disappearance, had given Danielle a flicker of hope that her daughter was alive, though at the time, police suspected a cruel prank meant to exploit a grieving mother. But with the recent discoveries of the jacket and sketchbook, that postcard suddenly became a crucial clue. It suggested Mia, or whoever had her, had been in Indiana for some period. At the same time, investigators searching a shipping container near the station found a small key engraved with the Riverside Rail Creek logo, the type issued only to maintenance workers. The key's serial number matched the one assigned to Curtis Lee, his disappearance shortly after Mia went missing, the key turning up at the rail yard, and the postcard sent from Indiana where Curtis once lived, all connected into a chilling pattern that could not be ignored. But where had Curtis gone? Who sent the postcard? Did Curtis take Mia with him, allowing her to live for some time in Indiana, or had something happened to Mia before the postcard was mailed? These new fragments pointed to one certainty: Mia's disappearance was far from random. Someone with knowledge and patience had hidden the truth for 8 long years, and the discovery of the denim jacket was only the beginning of the secrets waiting to surface. After the discovery of the jacket, sketchbook, postcard, and key, police focused all efforts on locating Curtis Lee, the one person who might hold the answers to Mia's disappearance. Curtis had once been a veteran maintenance worker who knew the Riverside Rail Station inside out. Records showed he resigned just 3 months before Mia went missing, coinciding with the station's closure when many train cars were abandoned without being properly secured. Digging deeper, investigators uncovered a troubling past. Curtis had been involved in a custody dispute with his ex-wife in Indiana, during which he was temporarily barred from seeing his own daughter for taking her from school without warning, a case documented as a brief family abduction. The file had been sealed following a private agreement, leaving Curtis with no criminal record, which allowed him to keep his job with the railway. Significantly, the address Curtis moved to after leaving Chicago was a small town in Indiana, the same place from which the mysterious postcard was mailed. In the first year after Mia's disappearance, Curtis sold his house in South Side, emptied his savings account, relocated to Indiana, and then vanished from that address just over a year later. A postal worker from the Indiana town remembered seeing Curtis occasionally accompanied by a black girl around 7 or 8 years old, with neatly braided hair and always clean clothes, though she rarely smiled, while not enough for legal proof. These recollections sparked a painful hope Mia might have been alive, at least in the early years after she vanished. All this time, Danielle had continued organizing searches, memorials, and posting flyers. She never knew that just a few hours' drive away, her daughter might have been seen, yet no one recognized her or alerted the authorities in time. Investigators tracked down Curtis' only living relative, his older sister, Sandra Lee, 62, who lived in a quiet suburb outside Gary, Indiana. Sandra insisted she hadn't seen her brother in years, ever since Curtis called to say he was starting a new life somewhere peaceful. She recalled that Curtis was obsessed with children's safety, often coming home from maintenance jobs, ranting about unsupervised kids crossing streets alone, fuming over what he saw as irresponsible parents. Sandra handed police an old photograph Curtis had emailed her a few months after leaving Chicago. In the picture, Curtis stood in front of a small wooden cabin nestled among pine trees. Beside him, turned away from the camera, was a little girl wearing a worn denim jacket. Her face wasn't visible, but her build and height closely matched Mia's. The photograph stunned the investigators. It suggested Curtis had been living with a young girl after leaving Chicago. Even more chillingly, the forest cabin in the photo looked just like the treehouse scenes Mia often drew. A digital analysis of the photo's metadata revealed it was taken in a forested area of Noble County, Indiana, where Curtis had rented a cabin for several months before disappearing entirely. When police searched the long-abandoned cabin, they found it overgrown with weeds and empty inside, but in one corner, they discovered a few scraps of children's drawings depicting, once again, a treehouse deep in the woods, matching the style in Mia's recovered sketchbook. Detective Martinez, who took over the case in its 8th year, realized the investigation had entered an entirely new phase. Mia wasn't just abducted. She may have spent years living with Curtis, completely cut off from the outside world, at the cabin. They also found a box of allergy medicine that expired 6 years ago, labeled MH, the initials of Mia Henderson. Mia's pediatric records noted a severe allergy to certain forest pollens, which strengthened the suspicion she had lived there. Curtis had apparently taken care to have her medication ready, albeit in a twisted attempt at guardianship. Meanwhile, police unearthed a startling clue in cell service records. Curtis' old mobile number, inactive for years, had pinged a tower 6 months ago in a small town in Ohio, then went silent again. It was the only signal from his phone in nearly 7 years. Martinez feared that if Curtis was still alive, he could have changed Mia's appearance or identity and continued moving from state to state. That possibility opened a terrifying new chapter. Mia might still be out there, living under a false name, hidden in plain sight, or worse. It also posed haunting questions. If Mia is alive, how has no one recognized her in 8 years? Were the postcards cryptic cries for help or cruel taunts from the person who took her? These fresh leads shattered the old narrative, thrusting Danielle back into a nightmare, a fragile flicker of hope that her daughter could be found, mingled with paralyzing fear over where Mia might be and whether she was still safe or already lost. As police followed the last known cell signal from Curtis, they decided to re-interview every witness who had provided statements 8 years earlier. Their focus fell especially on the shopkeeper at the Maple 3rd intersection, the woman who once claimed to have seen Mia crossing the street. In the new interview, she admitted that back then she had only thought she'd seen Mia because of rumors spreading among neighbors, but she wasn't actually sure. This hazy recollection, which had been treated as a key timeline anchor, now fell apart, toppling the sequence investigators had relied upon. Next, they tracked down the lemonade stand girl, now 17, who had once been considered a crucial eyewitness. She broke down in tears during questioning, confessing she never truly saw Mia getting into a van. She had only heard someone shouting Mia and assumed the missing girl must have been involved. Her statement at the time, twisted by fear and confusion, had accidentally steered the investigation down a false path, as what were thought to be solid leads unraveled into unreliable memories or hearsay born of community panic. A heavy sense of futility settled over the investigative team. One detective summed it up bleakly. We're not just chasing a kidnapper, we're untangling a web of warped memories created by collective hysteria. For Danielle, these revelations were devastating. For 8 years, she had clung to the hope that Mia was out there somewhere, believing the timeline police had built. But if even those pillars were crumbling, what could she trust? Everything began to feel like a mirage amid the collapse of old evidence. Detective Martinez revisited prior reports of child abductions around South Side, uncovering a chilling pattern in the 3 years before and after Mia disappeared. 4 children aged 5 to 8 had vanished across neighboring states: Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio. Though each case differed in timing, victim details, and circumstances, they all shared one disturbing commonality: every child had gone missing near old rail lines or abandoned industrial areas. Criminal geographic profiling suggested the kidnapper likely had specialized knowledge of old rail infrastructure, a detail fitting Curtis' background perfectly. Another discovery deepened the mystery. Forensic analysis of the abandoned cabin Curtis rented in Indiana revealed small footprints inconsistent with Mia's shoe size, suggesting another child might have been there. This raised a horrifying possibility that Curtis could have abducted more than one child, yet with no bodies or direct evidence, and no confirmed missing children linked to Curtis. The line between coincidence and pattern remained terrifyingly unclear. Anxiety rippled through the community. Was Mia just one of several hidden victims, or was this all a tragic coincidence? For Danielle, each new clue felt like it ripped her heart apart. More questions, fewer answers, and a growing sense that she was either on the brink of a miracle or falling deeper into despair. As the case spiraled, Martinez received a call from a homeless man who used to sleep near the old Riverside station. He recounted seeing, on a rainy night a few years back, a middle-aged man leading a young black girl with braided hair and a denim jacket as they slipped through the fence of the abandoned rail yard. The child was eerily silent, face blank, and he believed he'd seen a ghost when shown a photo of Curtis. The man confirmed the resemblance, but this testimony came far too late and lacked any evidence, serving only to twist the knife in a wound that would not heal. Meanwhile, forensic analysts revisited the mysterious postcard sent to Danielle. They found a fingerprint that didn't match Curtis, Mia, or any known records, hinting that someone else had mailed it, someone who either knew Mia's whereabouts or had possession of her. This opened a terrifying possibility. Had Mia been passed from one person to another? If so, what was Curtis' true role? Was he the only culprit, or merely the first link in a hidden chain for Danielle? Hope became its own kind of torment. The possibility that Mia might still be alive both ignited her determination and crushed her with fear. What if her child was suffering somewhere, unrecognized and alone after 8 years? The nightmare was no longer simply the loss of her daughter, but the unending horror of not knowing if Mia was alive or dead, imprisoned or being protected by someone else in that darkness. The only thing Danielle could cling to was the boundless love she carried for her daughter, but was love alone enough to light the way back to Mia, a few weeks after the news broke about the jacket, sketchbook, and the forest cabin. A volunteer group specializing in missing children from Ohio contacted Chicago police. They shared a recent rumor from a small town on the outskirts of Columbus about a girl who didn't seem to match the family she was living with. The girl was around 14, black, wore braided hair, spoke little, and was sometimes seen drawing pictures of tree houses deep in the woods. No one could say for certain, but those details made Danielle's heart seize. Mia would have just turned 15, matching the described girl's age perfectly. Police and the volunteer team quickly combed through temporary residency records for the area, but found that the foster family and the girl had moved away just weeks earlier, right after the news about Mia's jacket was made public. Once again, a flicker of hope blazed to life, only to be snuffed out as quickly as it appeared. Danielle was left teetering between anticipation and despair. On one hand, there was a possibility Mia was still alive. On the other, each day without news felt like torture on what would have been Mia's 15th birthday. Danielle organized a small candlelight vigil outside their old apartment, lighting 15 candles and hanging up one of Mia's drawings of a treehouse. Neighbors gathered in silent support, many wiping away tears as Danielle read aloud a letter to Mia. Wherever you are, even if I can't hold you right now, I want you to know you are always loved. The quiet gathering didn't attract the media's attention, but it rippled through the neighborhood, rekindling a sense of compassion many feared had faded over the years. Inside Danielle's small apartment, Mia's room remained untouched. On the bed sat the stuffed lion Mia had received as her last birthday present. Propped against the pillow, the walls were covered in Mia's drawings: forests, tree houses, some sketches unfinished with innocent, tentative lines. Danielle often spent hours sitting on the edge of the bed, running her fingers across the pictures, wondering how much Mia had changed, how tall she might be now, what songs she liked, if she still remembered the nights they curled up together reading fairy tales. Sometimes. Danielle thought she heard the soft patter of little feet in the hallway, or the quiet giggle of her daughter, only to snap back to the crushing silence of her empty home. Every night. She still switched on the star-shaped nightlight in Mia's room. "If she comes home," Danielle whispered, "she'll see the light still waiting for her." That belief was the only thread keeping her from falling apart. Yet with each passing day, her fear grew fear that Mia wouldn't recognize her, fear that Mia had been taught to forget her, or worse, that her daughter was gone forever. These fears overshadowed any fleeting joy, turning every smile into a reminder of her relentless, aching sorrow. The case file on Mia Henderson's disappearance remains open, unresolved. Police haven't located Curtis, don't know who sent the postcard, and still can't confirm whether the last cell phone signal had any connection to Mia. Ew. All that remains are scattered clues, both promising and cruel, in her chilly apartment. Danielle closed Mia's photo album, setting it beside a framed picture of them together on Mia's 5th birthday. She turned to the window, watching school buses roll by, and wondered if her daughter might be sitting on one of them, her face blank, no longer remembering who her mother was. The video ends with lingering shots of the abandoned tracks at Riverside Station, the derelict train cars covered in dust, slowly zooming in on the coat hook inside freight car 307, the place where Mia's jacket was found. A quiet, sorrowful voiceover asks, "What really happened to Mia Henderson? And if it were your child, how long would you keep searching?" The question isn't just for the viewers, but a haunting reminder every child deserves love, and every family deserves the truth no matter how long the wait.